final year of the Pendulum Wars, Lieutenant Colonel Gabriel Diaz led a COG force to the island of Knifespire. Diaz was sent on a search and rescue mission to Knifespire where a squad of Coalition ghosts had become compromised. While details of their mission remained confidential, Diaz and co arrive at the island and rendezvous with the ghosts. Wyatt, Gabriel's brother, formed part of the ghost squad and is escorted to safety by Gabe. On the retreat, Wyatt states that certain equipment had been left behind, and Hoffman wouldn't be happy if this wasn't secured. Diaz denies the request to return to the hot zone and heads back to their base of operations. At the debrief, it becomes clear that the Ghost unit was sent to Knifespire to set up a long-range antenna for a new top-secret weapon. The Ghosts were ordered not to leave the equipment, as if it got into the UIR hands it could compromise future missions. Without top-secret clearance, Gabe Diaz wasn't fully aware of this at the time and therefore retreated accordingly. Hoffman expresses his disappointment in Gabe and that his brother, Oscar, would have been more obedient at following orders. Hoffman orders a force to revisit Knifespire and secure the antenna. The Ghost unit were expected to conduct this mission, but Gabe Diaz requested his commanding officer authorize him to lead the mission instead. The mission proved to be a war of attrition and hinged around the incidents at Gatka Ridge. Diaz made a handful of poor decisions during the mission, leading to casualties, including Wyatt. After a series of battles across the region, Diaz and co make it back to the base for a debrief, having alleviated the concerns of Hoffman and Prescott. But during the mission, it became apparent that the island lay atop a large amount of emulsion. With the war in the balance, Prescott orders Gabe Diaz to return to the island despite the heavy losses in the previous mission. Diaz asks why, and the chairman states the emulsion is the key to turning the tide in the war. Captain Phillips, the commanding officer of Diaz, authorized him to lead the previous mission and again orders Diaz back to Knifespire as per Prescott's instruction. Diaz refuses and resigns from his current rank in protest. Despite Diaz leading a successful mission of sorts, he failed to toe the party line or consider the bigger picture of the war. Instead, he preferred to suffer the indignity of demotion to avoid returning to the place his brother Wyatt died in battle. This action led Gabriel Diaz to work in the motor pool in a mundane role for the remainder of the war. Diaz harboured a strong resentment against the COG leadership for keeping key mission details from him prior and during the incident at Gatka Ridge. It was the first time Diaz and Prescott clashed, but it would not be the last. Around this time, in the 80th year of the war, Adam Phoenix was leading the Hammer of Dawn tests. Finally, the weapon was perfected and Adam asked the COG leadership to give the UIR an ultimatum. No ultimatum was given and the COG fire the Hammer of Dawn, decimating the UIR forces. The war comes to an abrupt end, but still some UIR forces refuse to surrender. Following this, the COG claimed control of almost every country on Serra, but the UIR still retained some small pockets of resistance in areas such as Gorozhnia. The raid on Ashfo Fields and the creation of the Hammer of Dawn had won the war, but the victory was a mere prelude to a new type of horror. A horror so devastating, so destructive as to make the Pendulum Wars fade into insignificance.